They offered how much for a human head. The rain was a greasy curtain against the window of my office, reflecting the neon glow of the liquor store across the street. Another night, another bottle calling my name. Bills were stacked higher than my overflowing ashtray, and the only calls I was getting were from collection agencies pretending to be interested in my services. Liam Walker, private investigator. More like Liam Walker, public intoxicator. Then he walked in. Mr. Silas Thorne, mid-60s, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my car. His eyes were like chips of flint, and he carried himself with an unnerving stillness. He smelled faintly of old money and something else I couldn't quite place, something metallic. Mr. Walker, he said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey but cold. I require your unique skill set. I grunted, gesturing to the rickety chair opposite my desk. Depends on the skill set. I mostly do cheating spouses and lost cats these days. This is a more specialized request. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room with thinly veiled disdain. I need you to locate something for me, or rather someone. He reached into his briefcase, pulling out a small velvet box. He opened it, revealing a photograph. It was a close-up of a man's face. Handsome, arrogant eyes, a cruel smile playing on his lips. I didn't recognize him. His name is Julian Vance. Thorne said, and I need his head. I stared at him, the words hanging in the air like a bad joke. His head? You want me to find a severed head? Thorne didn't flinch, precisely. And for your trouble, I am prepared to offer you $2 million. $2 million. My head swam. That was enough to bury my debts, buy Ava that beachfront property she always wanted, maybe even get my goddamn life back. $2 million for a head, I repeated, still trying to process it. You understand what you're asking? Perfectly, Thorne said. I have no illusions about the moral implications, nor do I particularly care. Mr. Vance has caused me a great deal of inconvenience. Consider this a final settlement. He laid a thick envelope on my desk. $500,000 up front, the rest upon delivery. I trust you'll find this motivating. I picked up the envelope, feeling the weight of the cash, a down payment on my soul, and if I refuse. Thorne smiled, a chillingly polite expression. Then you will have wasted my time. And I assure you, Mr. Walker, wasting my time is a very unhealthy proposition. He left, leaving me alone with the money and the picture of Julian Vance. I poured myself a stiff drink. It didn't help. $2 million for a head. What the hell had I gotten myself into? I called Ava. She answered on the second ring. Liam, what's wrong? You sound awful. I need your advice, Ava. Professional advice. I told her everything, leaving out no detail, no matter how insane it sounded. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Liam, she said finally, her voice tight with concern. This is insane. You can't do this. This is murder for hire. You'll end up in prison or worse. I know, Ava, I know, but $2 million, I could pay off everything. I could be someone again. There are other ways, Liam, legal ways. Yeah, well, legal ways haven't exactly been lining up at my door lately. Please, Liam, just walk away, give the money back. Forget you ever met this Thorne character. I sighed. I don't know if I can, Ava. I already took the money. Liam, I'll be careful, I promised, knowing it was a lie. I need to look into it, see what I can find out. I'll call you later. I hung up, the weight of her disappointment heavy on my chest. I knew she was right. I should walk away. But the money, the goddamn money. I started by contacting Benny Knuckles Petrillo. Benny was a low-level thug, a walking encyclopedia of the city's underbelly. He owed me a few favors. Benny, I need some information. A guy named Julian Vance. Know him? There was a pause. Vance, yeah, I heard of him. Keeps a low profile. Connected. Real connected. Why you asking? Got a client interested in his whereabouts. Client with deep pockets, huh? Vance ain't someone you want to mess with. Trust me. What's he into? Everything. Drugs, gambling, protection, rackets, you name it. He's got his fingers in every dirty pie in this city. Where can I find him? That's the tricky part. He moves around, got places all over town, but I heard he's been spending a lot of time down at the old shipyard. The one near the docks. Place is crawling with rats and junkies, but it's his kind of scene. I thanked Benny and hung up. The shipyard. Perfect. Just the kind of place where a guy could disappear. The shipyard was a graveyard of rusting metal and broken dreams. The air was thick with the smell of salt, decay, and something else, something acrid and chemical. I parked my car a few blocks away and walked the rest of the way, keeping to the shadows. I found him in a dilapidated warehouse, surrounded by a group of rough-looking characters. Vance was sitting at a table, dealing cards. He looked even more arrogant in person. I watched them for a while, trying to figure out a plan. I wasn't exactly equipped for a full-scale assault. I had a rusty .38 in my glove compartment, but that was about it. Then I saw her, a young woman, huddled in a corner watching Vance with a mixture of fear and loathing. She looked out of place like a wildflower growing in a garbage dump. I approached her cautiously. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice low. "Are you all right?" She jumped, startled. "Who are you? What do you want?" "My name is Liam. I'm a friend of a friend. I'm trying to help." She looked at me skeptically. "Help who, me? Nobody helps me. What's your name?" "Sarah." "Sarah, are you in trouble?" She hesitated, then nodded slowly. He won't let me leave. He says I owe him." "Owe him what?" Money for things I don't want to talk about. I looked at Vance, his eyes cold and calculating as he dealt the cards. He's a bad man, Sarah. You need to get away from him. I can't, she said, her voice trembling. He'll find me. He always does. Not if I help you. I can get you out of here. I can get you somewhere safe. She looked at me, hope flickering in her eyes. You would do that? For me? Yeah, I said I would. That's when the shooting started. It was sudden and chaotic. A hail of bullets ripped through the warehouse, shattering glass and tearing holes in the metal walls. Everyone dove for cover. I grabbed Sarah and pulled her to the ground, shielding her with my body. Stay down, I yelled. I peeked over the edge of a crate and saw two men armed with automatic weapons spraying the room with bullets. They were clearly professionals. Vance and his crew were returning fire, but they were outgunned. The warehouse was turning into a bloody battlefield. I had no idea who these guys were or why they were attacking, but I knew I had to get Sarah out of there. I waited for a lull in the gunfire and then made a run for the back door, dragging Sarah behind me. We burst out into the night, scrambling through the maze of scrap metal and shipping containers. We didn't stop running until we reached my car. I shoved Sarah into the passenger seat and floored it, leaving the shipyard behind us in a cloud of dust. Who were those guys? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, I said, but they were after Vance and probably anyone who got in their way. I took her to a motel on the outskirts of the city, a place where no one would look for her. I paid for a week in advance and gave her some cash. Stay here, I said. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. You saved my life. Just stay safe, I said. That's all I ask. I left her at the motel and drove back to my office, my mind racing. What the hell was going on? Who were those gunmen, and why did they want Vance dead? I poured myself a drink and tried to piece together the puzzle. I was supposed to be finding Vance, not protecting him from assassins. But something didn't feel right. Something was missing. I decided to call Detective Maxwell. He wasn't exactly my biggest fan, but he was a straight shooter, and I needed answers. Maxwell, he answered, his voice gruff. It's Walker, I said, Liam Walker. What do you want, Walker? I'm busy. I think I might have some information on a case you're working on. Oh yeah? What case is that? The shooting at the shipyard. Julian Vance. There was a pause. Where are you, Walker? At my office. But I'm not coming down to the station. I just want to give you some information. All right. Walker, talk. I told him everything I knew, leaving out the part about Thorne and the $2 million. I told him about Sarah, the gunman, and Vance's shady dealings. Maxwell listened in silence. When I was finished, he said, you know Vance, Walker. You know what he's really into. Drugs, gambling, the usual, I said. That's just the surface, Maxwell said. Vance is into something much darker, something ritualistic. We've been investigating him for months. We think he's involved in a series of disappearances. Young women mostly. They vanish without a trace. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? I'm saying Vance isn't just a gangster, Walker. He's a monster, and you're playing with fire. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. Ritualistic, disappearances. What had I gotten myself into? I thought about Sarah, alone and vulnerable in that motel room. I had to protect her. I had to get her away from Vance. I grabbed my gun and headed back to the motel. But when I got there, she was gone. The room was empty except for a single crimson rose lying on the pillow. My heart sank. Vance had found her. I drove to Thorne's estate. It was a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. I parked my car at the gate and rang the bell. A tall, imposing man in a black suit answered the door. May I help you? He asked, his voice cold and formal. I need to see Mr. Thorne, I said. It's urgent. The man hesitated, then stepped aside. Very well, follow me. He led me through a maze of opulent rooms filled with antique furniture and priceless artwork. The air was thick with the same metallic scent I had noticed in Thorne's office. Finally, we reached a large study. Thorne was sitting at a desk, surrounded by books and papers. He looked up as I entered the room. Mr. Walker, he said, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Have you brought me what I desire? I know what Vance is, I said, my voice trembling with rage. I know what he's been doing to those women. Thorne smiled. So you've discovered the truth. I commend your tenacity. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded. Why did you make me hunt him down? Because Mr. Walker, Thorne said, his voice dripping with malice. I needed someone with your particular skill set. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Someone who was desperate enough to do anything for money. He stood up and walked over to a large, ornate cabinet. He opened it, revealing a row of glass jars. Inside each jar was a human head, preserved in formaldehyde. My stomach churned. I wanted to vomit. You see, Mr. Walker, Thorne said, gesturing to the jars, Mr. Vance was not the first, nor will he be the last. He was merely a component, a necessary ingredient in a much grander design. He reached into the cabinet and pulled out a small silver knife. And now, Mr. Walker, he said, his eyes locking on mine, it's time for you to play your part. That's when I understood. The head wasn't just about revenge. It was a ritual, a sacrifice, and I was meant to deliver the final piece.